So we just wanted to do a quick video talking about the 3 rigs that we use most often out here and how we set those up. So without question, you know, you come out here, you think bass, trout. I'm usually thinking bass when I'm out here. And without question, my number 1 bait for bass is a shad pattern Clouser. This is a pretty small one. We've done a tutorial on the site how to tie this fly, but this is probably my number 1 fly out here. I like to fish this on an 8-weight rod with heavy, fast sinking line. And I'll cast this at structure, I'll cast this out in the open, let it sink different rates, and strip it. And the whole thing is erratic stripping. We'll go over that here in a few minutes, but it's a pretty simple leader. You know, I use just the T14. I come straight down to 20-pound fluorocarbon, you know, maybe 2 feet of that, down to 15-pound, another 2 feet of that, and then 2 feet of 12-pound fluorocarbon. So it's a tapered leader, it's big. One important thing is when you're tying on bait fish patterns or streamers, using a loop knot up here. You can either use a non-slip mono loop or, you know, a perfection loop, but tie a loop knot up here. It gives your fly more action. So 8-weight rod, 8-weight reel, heavy fast sinking line, you know, an S7, a T14. We're happy to talk about those in the shop with you, and small Clouser patterns. Okay, so if I'm using the sinking line and the Clousers most often, the second most often rig that I use is an indicator rig. Straightforward, down and dirty, airlock, tapered leader, and about 9 feet of tippet here. I like to fish it. This year I've moved to a 10-foot 7-weight rod, just because some of these bass are hard to handle on a 6-weight, and those are the ones that you want to get in the net. So I've loved it. We're fishing an Echo Stillwater this year. This is a pretty amazing rod. I've loved it so far, so I'm excited about that. But just to go over it real quick, I've got some 7-weight floating line on this, a really aggressive front taper, and I usually, like I said, fish it about 10 foot in depth, 9 feet in depth total with 2 leeches, or a leech and a worm, or, you know, sometimes a couple of nymphs. If the trout are really on the bite, I'll lean more towards the nymphs. If it's a combo, or if I'm picking up mostly bass, I'll go to leeches and even small balanced bait fish patterns. Anything in white really works, olive, black. Those are, you know, pretty standard good colors. So same thing, I'm fishing that, you know, if it's a 10-foot depth, I'm usually fishing that in 11 to 15 feet of water. As we get into the winter time and it gets colder, we'll catch more suspended bass, but on a day like today, we're gonna be looking for trout with this rig. And the last one that I usually pack in the boat, and I don't fish it that often, if I start seeing fish, if I start seeing really shallow bait, or, you know, bait getting busted on, I'll throw an intermediate line. This is maybe a 1.5 to 2 inch per second sink rate. And again, I vary the patterns between, I'll usually run 2 leeches and bait fish patterns. If they're busting on shad, then, you know, I'll throw a small Clouser on just like I do on that sinking line and just rip that through the bait. But if I see trout cruising in the back of a creek channel or something like that, I'll throw a couple leeches on and strip those through, and that usually does the job. So if I'm searching, you know, some variation of a white pattern, some variation of a dark black or an olive, you know, once I figure out what they're keying in on, if it's a certain color or, you know, it's always the bottom fly, I'll mix and match and vary accordingly. But those are the rigs we use. We'll go over how to fish them here in just a minute.